Luminous City Ghost. This is probably like one of the most famous things to come off the game, if not the most famous. Everybody knows about this, and it came out right after the time the creepypastas were at their peak popularity, so it was very fitting. And, you know, the whole story, you go to Luminous City, you take this elevator, and then out of nowhere, the screen goes black. This ghost comes out and starts moving without a walking animation, who's the Hexmaniac model, and says, "No, you're not the one," before disappearing. It's also believed that you can see her in a hotel where she says, "Don't talk to me. If you do, I might not hear the elevator." And I've also heard some speculation that she reappears in Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, but this is about XY. Anyway, of course, people ran wild talking about this and speculating what it is, and trying to find hints of this and other stuff that we might go over later on this iceberg, such as it relating to text that's on a sign in the train station, and a bunch of other things. And yeah, it's overall very, very weird and just asking for some sort of dark mystery to be solved. And a developer has been asked about this, where they kind of claimed ghost? What ghost? So yeah, you know, it's them fucking with us. Pokemon Z, the big one. So at the time, it was the usual for a third or even sometimes fourth version for the games to come out after the first initial two to the next new generation returned. And Black and White were the only kind of cases with this, with Black and White 2 coming out instead of Gray. Now, despite that, Pokemon XY seemed like it was just prime right for Pokemon C. I mean, all of those things that we're talking about on this iceberg, and, you know, there being Sirius and Yveltal, and then Zygarde, it said, you know, like, obviously the next games are going to be Z, and the friggin' anime continued this with XYZ. But it never happened. There was no Pokemon Z, much to everybody's bewilderment. And with Ultra Sun and Moon coming out afterwards, this left an even bigger thing on X and Y being the only games not to get some sort of follow-up, and then, you know, Gen 89 notwithstanding, since DLC pretty much take care of that. But yeah, this was always such a confusing addition, just wondering why X and Y got such a bad treatment. Did you know Gaming, I believe, went over this story a few times, but it's a really long story. And now with AC, we're almost getting that, but not exactly. Zygarde's treatment. Relating to this is, yeah, so Zygarde was the third big legendary, again, as per tradition, going off the franchise in here, and we thought the third game would be with his, but nothing happened. Zygarde is just in a random post-game cave, no fanfare or anything, and you fight them, and you catch them, and yeah, whatever. And, you know, that wasn't too unusual for Pokemon at the time, because, again, like, the same happened with, like, Giratina and Rayquaza and so on, and, yeah, Kyurem, and so yeah, again, we were just thinking, like, okay, the third installment to this game was all it, but no, Zygarde got nothing, and it felt even more egregiously empty in here because of all the other lack of stuff, as we'll go over in this iceberg later, and, yeah, nothing just came about Zygarde, and it wasn't until the next generation where they continued development more. This is kind of a fake entry, but it's something that's going to tie in and make a lot more sense as we explain everything else in the series. Eternal Flower Floette, the most infamous cut content from this game, and some of the most infamous cut content from Pokemon in general. You see this unique-looking Floette at the end of the game with AC, and, you know, there's the famous line, "It's been over 3,000 years," and yeah, this is also just sometimes called AC's Floette. But anyway, you know, with Pokemon, usually you can catch them all trademark. And as you can expect, this unique-looking Floette that you otherwise can never see or obtain otherwise was meant to be obtainable. It was going to be an event distribution, and future games like Sun and Moon basically still support this. I think even in the files of Sun and Moon, I mean, not Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield still continue to have Floette in this. But for whatever reason, Get used to hearing that during this. This event never happened. Don't know why, just never did, and it had its own unique stats and everything, and I don't know what the deal with this was. It's really annoying. But that's not all, because it ties into this next entry, Light of Ruin. Eternal Flower of Floette was not only all that, but it has its own signature move too, and it fully works in everything. And of course this was going to come with Floette, but no, we never got it, and like the previous entry, this move is still supported in future games and can function in them, but known for you, they made this whole entire move just to never use it, and really strange. Almost no post-game. So, yeah, X and Y coming off of the massiveness of the DS games and all the things you can do in the post-games of Platinum and Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and both Gen 5 games, especially the sequels, and, you know, Gold and Silver, having all of Kanto to explore afterwards, and well, almost all of Kanto. And then, you know, Gen 3 was nothing really to snuff at either with this. XY, aside from obviously Gen 1, has the worst post-game in the series, and it was really noticeable at the time especially. Well, maybe it's better than Sword and Shield. I keep mixing those two up, sorry. Anyway, yeah, all what you really do in the post-game for this is go to the Cave of Sigard, and there's a Looker side quest, which takes about 30 minutes. I guess there's like the Battlefront thing too, which is just a thing in all the games, and not everybody likes to do anyways, that's only for the competitive stuff. And really that's about it. Aside from that, it's just fucking Gen 1 stuff, not new legendaries, but no, just the Gen 1 legendaries. Like, there's a cave where you can find Mewtwo, big deal. And then there's the legendary birds, but the way you catch them is really stupid and annoying, because you have to encounter them randomly in the wild like 10 times or something before they finally stop and fly up to spots. Like, who's gonna bother doing that for nothing new? Yeah, again, riding off of the giantness of the DS games, keep that in mind throughout this whole series. This was really surprising and a huge letdown, and there was never any sort of update or extra version to expand on this, and yeah, it was just shocking, and we don't know what the deal with this was. And a star sundial, the most recognizable key spot in the whole entire game. It's a really big landmark. You instantly recognize this the moment you see it. It's probably been burned into your head, even though there's a chance that you probably don't even remember what this is used for. Chances are you think it's on this iceberg because it does nothing, but it does have one use. You go to it, it updates and upgrades your bracelet, and then it lets you find Megastones. Yeah, how many of you remember that? It's one of those things that are just easily forgettable in these games. And you would think being a sundial, maybe a special thing happens if you go to it at a certain time of day. Well, yes, it does, but I never saw it myself, and I feel like most other players haven't seen it either. What happens is that if you go to the game at 8 p.m., which is a really weird time because the sun is usually down at 8 p.m. during a lot of chunks of the year. But anyways, if you go see it then the rings in it will start spinning around and light shines through its hole, and it will start sparkling in the town. But that's it. It doesn't actually activate or do anything else. It's really weird, even if it is kind of a nice detail, but again, nobody will really see because of the weird time point that you have to look at during. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it's such a mysterious thing, because it seems like there was supposed to be way more. Everybody who looks at this probably thought that this was going to be some really hugely major important thing, but nope. And there are some theories to speculate being part of like AZ's weapon or something else, or Lucimeri's weapon. But yeah, there's just nothing that really goes on with this thing, and it just feels like major cut content and story points again. So yeah, this giant thing just does nothing. It doesn't really look like a sundial either. It looks like a giant megastone or something of the sort. This other people speculate, and that's kind of confirmed with it letting you find megastones, and yeah, just like all the story potential scrapped. Power plant, the most notorious example of everything that you'll see in this list. Nothing's been said about this, nothing's been confirmed about, but everyone who's played through the game probably thought and has gone through this. You're in this big empty area, and in the background you can see this power plant, and everybody keeps on mentioning it and bringing it up. It's a big major focal part at this point in the game, and there's these doors that lead to it from underground, and you go up to them and it's like, oh, you can't do this, it's locked, and you think, okay, I guess I'll visit the power plant post-game. You return post-game expecting to go in. You can't. You never can. You can never go in. It's just here constantly teasing you all the time, and it is insane. And yeah, I put it all the way up here because I feel like this is the prime example of everybody thinking that there's supposed to be something here, but nothing ever happens. Lack of legendaries. I went over this in the no post-game one. There's the cover legendaries, and then after that, the only other one that you can catch is, you know, the lackluster side guard that got no development or follow-up or anything in this generation. And it's still really weird that it's, guard just, like, got a side quest in Gen 7 and then was dropped and never fully speculated on or elaborated afterwards. Maybe coming later, it was to finally resolve it with AC, but yeah. There were no other legendaries after that. Yes, there were mythical ones such as Beyonce, Hoopa, and I always forget their name, not Falcon Rona, but you know, the water fire dude with the ring on his back. And yeah, that was it. I don't really want to fully count the mythicals because, you know, those are added later on with events. So yeah, there was no legendary trio, there weren't any extras, and this again was after the DS where those had a lot of legendaries, especially Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. So yeah, just another egregious thing. Just recycle the birds that everybody's caught 10 times before, and just really strange and disappointing. Anyways, that's the tip. Next up, we're going with even more oddities in the water.